A high-profile murder case went before a judge today, and prosecutors dropped a bombshell in court, saying that Brooks Houck may be linked to the murder of Crystal's father.
He is charged with the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Crystal Rogers. Police arrested him last week, more than 8 years since she disappeared. She is presumed dead. Her body has never been found. WKYT's Jeremy Toms is joining us now in studio to recap what happened today inside that Nelson County courtroom.
Well, Bill and Amber, as you just set up, it's an appearance that was 8 years in the making, and in it, prosecutors revealed a connection to the case of Tommy Ballard, which is going on 7 years unsolved. The family of Crystal Rogers say a lot of questions still lack answers, but they left court feeling good about what they learned today.
As been stated before, the truth will set you free. The problem in this matter is the truth will imprison Brooks Houck.
Brooks Houck was reduced to a small square on a screen in a Nelson County courtroom. But the case loomed large against him and possibly implicated his family, as Special Prosecutor Shane Young unveiled a potential link between the deaths of Houck's ex-girlfriend Crystal Rogers and Rogers' father, Tommy Ballard.
We're waiting for testing to come back on the firearm we believe was used to murder Tommy Ballard, a firearm that we purchased from Nicholas Houck, who was using a fake name.
It's something the family thought all along.
Evidently, he was getting too close to finding her, and it wasn't no deer hunter. They had to get rid of Tommy because he was finding out too much.
And on Thursday, the prosecution might have finally brought them validation.
Prosecutor Shane made that statement. We feel a whole lot better.
Houck watched on from the Hardin County Detention Center as his attorney pushed for a lower bond.
He has as strong a ties to this community as any defendant could have. He has family that love him. He has friends that love him. His son is here.
But it's his business assets which leave Young calling to keep that bond where it's been set, a significant $10 million figure.
The defendant has vast resources, Your Honor. We went through and looked at them. And to ensure his compliance with bond conditions, he deserves this type of bond.
No decision has been made yet on lowering Houck's bond, but Young made one more big revelation inside the courtroom Thursday. He accused Houck's family of illegally recording the grand jury proceedings, which led to Houck's indictment. Those proceedings usually done behind closed doors, but Young says Houck told his sister how to record them and why he needed them. Houck is not due back in court until February of 2024. Amber.
Jeremy, thank you. And we dug into Nick Houck's background tonight. He was fired from the Bardstown Police Department in 2015. Bardstown investigators say Nick called his brother to warn him that detectives were planning to interview him shortly after Crystal Rogers disappeared. That call came while a detective was in the middle of interviewing Brooks Houck. Nick's police cruiser was also searched for evidence. He was then fired after a failed polygraph test and claims that he did not fully cooperate with the investigation into Rogers' disappearance.
Crystal Rogers' disappearance and her father's death weren't the only unsolved cases to plague Bardstown. In 2013, Bardstown police officer Jason Ellis was on his way home from work when he saw tree branches blocking the exit he was taking. When he got out to move them, he was shot and killed in an ambush. A year later, school teacher Kathy Netherland and her daughter Samantha were found murdered in their home. Both of them were beaten. Kathy was shot while Samantha was stabbed to death. No one is facing charges in any of those cases.